Come with me as we watch Barry Keoghan before Sabrina Carpenter dumped his ass. It's the year 2006. A freshman scholarship student, Oliver Quick, arrives at Oxford University. When he arrives, the school is already packed with students, groups huddled around the campus, old friends seeing each other again after being away for the summer, and new ones struggling to find their dorms. As Oliver finds himself in his building, a group of students pass by and mockingly compliment his jacket and tie. Okay, but they outfits didn't need either. Finally, in his dorm room, Oliver settles down. While changing his clothes, he hears voices outside of his window. He looks out and sees a group huddled in the middle of the field, including the guy who complimented his clothes earlier. His gaze settles on a tall, charismatic guy in a blue cashmere sweater. He suddenly looks up and sees Oliver watching him. Startled, Oliver retreats back inside his room and out of view. I just know Oliver want to climb that tree. Later at the welcome dinner, Oliver struggles to find a table with an empty seat. He walks around the room full of people chatting and laughing, but no one seems to notice him. Finally, he spots an empty seat and settles in front of a guy who, like himself, seemed to have no friends at all. The guy introduces himself as Michael Gavey. He claims to be a genius at math and can solve any math problem there is. Boy, that's social suicide. Oliver and Michael end up becoming friends, keeping each other company as they both struggle to find friends. Days go by and Oliver develops a routine at school. He does tutorial session to aid his scholarship where he meets Farley. Oliver immediately develops a dislike for Farley the moment they meet. They spend the tutoring sessions arguing, Farley provoking Oliver with his rhetoric. Oliver's days go on like this, often spending time in the library studying with Michael, who he secretly loathes. Once in a while, he would catch a glimpse of the full-on man Felix, the guy he saw outside his window on his first day. Oliver can't seem to take his eyes off of Felix, often observing him from afar. Felix spends most of his time with Farley, who turns out to be his first cousin. Felix and Farley are inseparable, often tailed by their own exclusive group. They party and spend their evenings in dive bars, and Oliver could only watch from afar. One day, Oliver is riding his bike to return some books to the library when he finds Felix on the side of the road and his bike on the ground. Oliver stops and asks him what's wrong, and Felix tells him that he got a flat tire, making him 10 minutes late to his class. Being a pick-me boy, Oliver offers to let Felix borrow his bike, as the library is only a few blocks away compared to where Felix is heading. Felix declines, but Oliver insists, even offering to take Felix's bike with him back to campus. Grateful, Felix agrees. The next day, Oliver and Michael are in a bar for dinner. While Michael talks, Oliver's attention is elsewhere, watching Felix and his friends in the other side of the room. Michael leaves to go to the bathroom and asks Oliver to order him another pint of beer. With Michael gone, Oliver walks over to the bartender for a refill just in time for Felix to notice him. Felix calls him from across the room and asks him to come over. Oliver walks over to their table and Felix introduces Oliver to his friends. They offer him a seat and he takes it. He then sees Michael across the room and Oliver ignores Jeffrey Dahmer. Oliver spends the night drinking with Felix's friends. When it's his turn to buy the next round of shots, he walks over to the bartender and begs him to let him pay for it later since he doesn't have enough money. Sensing that Oliver is having trouble paying for the shots, Felix walks over and pays for it himself. The next day, Oliver wakes up with a hangover and smiles despite it. He has finally cemented his place in Felix's friend group, spending time with them in pubs, partying, and even spending a lot of time in Felix's dorm room. I bet it smells something fierce in there. One day, Oliver is in the library where he comes face to face with Michiel. He mentions how Oliver has changed, even the way he dresses has changed. Michael tells Oliver that Felix will get bored of him eventually, but Oliver just walks away and ignores him. I just realized that's Prince Aemon Targaryen. You don't want to mess with that dude. One night, Felix brings a girl home, while our psycho dude just watches from outside. As days go by, Felix and Oliver's relationship devolves, Oliver not being invited on outings anymore. One morning, Oliver gets a call from his mother. Afterwards, Oliver tells Felix that his father died suddenly. Felix does his best to console him. After the final exams, Felix gives Oliver a rock tradition when someone dies in his family. They would say a few words, then they throw the rock in the water. Unfortunately, his rock doesn't even hit the water because he throws like a gay man. Felix empathizes with Oliver's stories of his parents' substance abuse and mental health issues. Felix comforts him and invites him to spend the summer at his family's estate called Saltburn. Oliver arrives at Saltburn and finds himself in a massive estate. Still astonished by the scale of the house, Oliver knocks on an equally massive door and is met by Duncan, the estate's butler. Duncan is rigid and terrifying and leads Oliver into the house. Once inside, Oliver is once again astounded by the proportions of the house, looking around at the grandeur he never experienced growing up. Felix shows up and gives Oliver a brisk tour of the estate, ending the tour in Oliver's assigned bedroom right next to Felix's room, allowing them to share a bathroom. While the family gossips about Oliver, Oliver sees Felix's sister, Venetia, looking like she wants to pounce on him. Oliver meets Felix's parents, Sir James and Lady Elspeth, and Elspeth's friend Pamela, who is staying with them temporarily while she hides from her Russian billionaire boyfriend. Lady Elspeth says she gets horrified at ugly things since she was young and is glad Oliver isn't hideous. She also got no filter and says addiction is usually poor people problems. Damn, this white bitch is unhinged. At dinner, Elspeth tells the family she has found a studio apartment to stay, and the family is relieved her ass will be gone soon, but they all fake ass pho to her. One day, the siblings and cousin are in the field naked. They tell Oliver he has to be in his birthday suit, and Farley is apparently impressed with Oliver's size. Days pass and the family does some rich people shit, including playing tennis in tuxedos. He quickly wins over Felix's family and his obsession with Felix grows. One night, Oliver watches Felix pleasuring himself in a bathtub and curiously drinks from the tub afterwards. We listen and we don't judge. Nah, drinking Felix's leftover bathwater and mayonnaise is absolutely foul. In the afternoon, Elspeth tells Oliver how much of a slut her daughter Venetia is. Oliver says Venetia must have it hard because Elspeth is so beautiful, appealing to her shallowness. Then Oliver hints that Pamela may have been lying about her sob stories. Later on, he meets Venetia in the garden and seduces her. Venetia warns Oliver that she's on her period. However, Oliver is apparently a vampire and loves ketchup. He slurps that too. Farley sees them from his bedroom window and informs Felix. The next day, Felix seemed aggravated about what Farley had told him, but Oliver claims that nothing happened with him and Venetia, and that Farley made the story up. Is Felix into his sister or into Oliver? Felix believes him and mentions an incident that happened the previous summer with his high school best friend who fell in love with Venetia and who he has stopped talking to since. Later that night, Venetia tries to seduce Oliver by sitting directly under his window, but Oliver ignores her, afraid that pursuing Venetia might ruin his relationship with Felix. During breakfast, Elspeth mentions Oliver's upcoming birthday and offers to throw him a party. The mention of a party excites Sir James, prompting Elspeth to start planning the party. The next day, Oliver overhears Felix and Farley arguing. Farley is concerned about his mother, who is now drowning in debt in America. All the while, the family is living an elaborate lifestyle and planning a grand birthday party for Oliver, while refusing to help his mother out. That night, guests arrive at the estate for a dinner party, where they end up in the sitting room singing karaoke. Oliver confronts Farley about telling Felix about him and Venetia, but Farley insults him in response. That same night, Farley wakes up to Oliver hovering over him on his bed. Oliver starts touching Farley and threatening him in the process. In a weird power dynamic, Oliver ends up grinding on Farley, who ends up enjoying it. Well, this man is about to fuck the entire family at this rate. The next day, Sir James evicts Farley after receiving a report from Sotheby's that he intends to sell valuables from James's art collection. That afternoon, Venetia, Felix, and Oliver are lounging on the lake not far from the estate talking about Farley's situation. Elspeth then arrives and mentions that her friend Pamela has unalived herself. Everyone except Oliver is unconcerned by the news. Oliver's birthday arrives and Felix surprises him with a trip to see his estranged mother. Realizing their destination, Oliver panics and begs Felix not to go forward with his plans. Felix insists, telling Oliver that he should reconsider since it's his birthday and that his mother deserves to celebrate it with him. Upon arriving at the family's house in Prescott, Felix meets a woman so far from what Oliver had described. She ain't no cracker. He also realized that Oliver's father was alive all along and that the family never lived in poverty as Oliver told him. Just another white privileged boy in the suburbs. Felix realizes that Oliver had lied about his upbringing. Horrified and angry about Oliver's deception, Felix orders him to leave Saltburn after the party as it's too late to cancel it now. Guests start arriving for the party, and by the time the sun is out, the whole estate is filled with people. Guests littered everywhere. Despite it being his birthday, Oliver is alone. He walks around the estate looking for Felix. When he finally finds him huddled in a small bathroom with a few guests, Felix orders Oliver to leave him alone. Defeated, Oliver floats around the party, drinking by himself. Later that evening, he notices Felix walking towards the hedge maze with a girl. He follows them. Felix is exasperated to see Oliver watching him doing it with the girl. Oliver ends up confessing his feelings to Felix, but Felix rejects him, expressing hurt and confusion at Oliver's actions. The next morning, Oliver is woken up by a commotion from downstairs. The whole family, including the maids, are running around the estate looking for Felix. In desperation, Venetia and Farley wait around the lake looking for him. Elspeth, on the other hand, walks around the maze in hopes that she'll find Felix there. From Oliver's balcony, a loud scream echoes around the estate. It was Elspeth. She had just found Felix's body, and the whole family run toward the maze. In her distress, Elspeth orders the whole family to prepare for breakfast while waiting for the police to arrive. At the breakfast table, everyone is shaken by the events. Farley is having trouble eating his pie, Venetia is shaking as she pours herself a glass of wine, and Elspeth is pretending as if everything is normal. Realizing Oliver's presence, Farley asks him why he's still there now that Felix is gone, and asks him to leave. In response, Oliver implies Farley's drug use had a connection to Felix's death. Hearing this, James forbids Farley from coming back to the estate and cuts off all financial support to him. After Felix's funeral, when everyone has left, Oliver mourns Felix and sexually grinds against Felix's grave. Felix gotta be rolling in his grave right now because what in the fetish is this? Back at the estate, Elspeth insists Oliver stay at Saltburn, and he accepts. That night, Oliver finds Venetia in the bathtub of his shared bathroom with Felix, and she drunkenly accuses Oliver of disintegrating her family. He attempts to seduce her, but she rejects him, disturbed after she smells Felix's aftershave on him. The next day, Venetia is found surrounded with a pool of her own blood in the bathtub. It appears she unalived herself. Something is fishy over here, and it ain't Venetia's kitty cat. The family held a second funeral that week, this time for Venetia, and your boy didn't grind on her grave this time. Elspeth asks Oliver once again to stay with her and James while they process the deaths of their children. Weirded out of Oliver's continuing presence at Saltburn and Elspeth's closeness to him, James bribes him to leave. Realizing that Oliver will not accept his bribery, James forces him to leave instead. Years later, Oliver reads about James's death in a newspaper. He has a chance encounter with Elspeth at a cafe, and she is delighted to see him, insisting he return with her to Saltburn. After spending several months with Oliver in Saltburn, Elspeth becomes fatally ill. On her deathbed, Oliver reveals that he had been responsible for the tragic events at Saltburn. He had orchestrated his meeting with Felix at Oxford, slashing Felix's tire, himself resulting in a flat tire, and murdering him by poisoning his drink after his rejection in the maze. He placed razor blades near Venetia's bath and fabricated the email that resulted in Farley's expulsion from the estate. He had also planned his encounter with Elspeth at the cafe, resulting in her inviting him back to Saltburn, where she, after spending a few months with him, decides to leave all of her financial assets to Oliver, including Saltburn. Finally, Oliver ends Elspeth by removing her ventilator. Now the sole owner of Saltburn and all of the family's assets, the film ends with Oliver dancing naked around the mansion to Murder on the Dance Floor. And people commented on how large his thing-a-ling is, but honestly, it looked average. Well, this movie was definitely something. I'm a bit surprised Elspeth couldn't think of a closer family member to sign the inheritance away to. Could have given it to Farley for reparations, but instead this man gonna swim in generational wealth. What did you guys think?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.